So about 24 hours ago, I did update you guys regarding the entire market. Today, when we are looking at the market, obviously things look a little bit different because obviously we are in a sea of green instead of a sea of red. Now, will this last? That's the big question that everyone will most likely ask. And ultimately, when we are looking at some of the gains in this space, just being honest with you guys, most of these gains are really just us bouncing off of the lows. These are not actual gains. We are not back to the highs going back just a couple months ago. And again, when we think about where this current market is cyclical wise, and are we close to the top? Are we close to being bottomed out on this recent move? And are we bottomed? That's the big question, right? The main thing that we're looking at in terms of the crypto cycle is everyone's trying to base this off of previous cycles, and if we're going to follow this to a T. And one analyst from the space, Credible Crypto, has made a comment regarding the fact that we're not really following a 4-year cycle, and we never really followed a 4-year cycle. It's more so we were just following an expanded larger cycle than what we are really kind of basing it off of, meaning it's more of a macro based cycle, which I would argue is technically true. I mean, obviously, yes, we follow the liquidity cycle around crypto, and everyone is always betting on every 4 years we have this massive bull run in alt season, and we're just going to be able to play it to a T. I don't think that that's a logical way of looking at crypto, because if it was that easy, everyone would be able to just buy, sell, and get rich. Now is the best time to lock in with ITrustCapital, where you could tap into their Roth IRA crypto designed platform, or even their premium custody account that allows you to hold crypto safely and soundly. You never have to worry about if your crypto is going to disappear overnight, because this is a closed loop system. Assets are held one-to-one off balance sheet, US-based live client service, institutional custody, tax reporting, and 24/7 365 buying and selling. I personally love the Roth IRA side of their platform. It's incredible, especially for tax advantaged trading as well as holding crypto. If you guys do want to tap into this, you guys are more than welcome to, utilizing my link down in the description below and my promo code as well, where you deposit $1,000 and they give you an additional $100 funding bonus. What are you guys waiting for? Sign up today. You won't regret it. And although it did happen, for about 3 cycles in a row, you could argue 2013, 2014, 2017, 2018, and then 2020 to 2021. So 3 cycles. Is it going to happen 4 times in a row? I do think that we will have an alt season. I think that we will have that big run up, but I don't think that it's going to be as predictable as before. And also on top of that, I do think that we are going to go through a ton of major manipulation, major wipeouts, and that's exactly what we're in right now. We are in a massive shakeout event where it's making everyone think that, all right, well, things are looking pretty rough. The economy is kind of rough right now as well. I'm getting panicked, I'm getting scared, I'm getting concerned. I think maybe I should just sell and get out and, see what happens. And then all of a sudden they start buying back while things are running to the upside again. And again, when we look at the market today, we are in a sea of green. Bitcoin is still hovering around 110K, so nothing really changed in the last 24 hours there. Ethereum also sitting around like roughly 3,900, and XRP still sitting around $2.40. So again, not much has changed at all. However, there is a few things that I want to go over, because although, yes, the shakeouts have been very successful. I mean, millions of traders are getting wiped out. We know on the 10th that over 1+ million traders were completely liquidated with large positions in the millions of dollars. So again, this has been a very successful shakeout. And the psychological warfare that's going on is also being very successful, because again, months on end with no positive net gains, I'm seeing a lot of people getting extremely frustrated, extremely concerned about what happens next. And this is something that I really think is so important to look at if you are in this space and maybe you're getting a little bit concerned. Look at the sentiment. Look at how frustrated everyone is getting. And I know that that is, something that's very easy to say like, oh, look at the sentiment's negative, so that means everything will, go up in value. The main thing that we're looking at here is just how bearish this space has been, even though the market has been trading very well. Although, yes, Bitcoin has been making all-time highs and it's been doing very well, most altcoins, since going back about roughly 9 months ago, really haven't done much. And I've stressed this so many times because, again, I'm not trying to say, all right, well, all because things haven't been, the best around sentiment, that means that we're immediately going to pump. No, the main thing that I'm focused on here is the markets will, like any market, it doesn't have to be crypto, it could be stocks. They do not top on frustration. They don't top on negativity. They don't top when everyone is, extremely frustrated. They top when everyone is euphoric. So I want to make sure that you guys are paying attention to the sentiment. Now, with that in mind, when we are looking at the crypto market today, we are at about 32 in terms of fear, and the market cap itself for crypto has been starting to bounce back as well. But again, when it comes to the fear and greed index, this is still showing us that, everyone is still on the fence. They don't know if they should be bullish or bearish at this moment. There's not a clear path in front of them that's telling them, hey, guess what? You should be very bullish right now. But if we are looking at a few things, if we're thinking about Bitcoin, if we're thinking about Ethereum, if we're thinking about even XRP, across the board here, we're still starting to have a nice push to the upside, and we're still creating some pretty bullish structure. And I know that it's not extremely clear and it's not, full on, confirmed just yet. If we're looking at just Bitcoin alone, and I want to look at this on the daily real quick, just to show you guys what's been happening. So if we go back here to this big push to the upside of like roughly 114K, it was a nice wick. We could see that the RSI was still fighting the moving average. We just broke through the moving average here on the daily. Now, again, is this confirmation that Bitcoin's going to skyrocket and break to a new all-time high? Not exactly, but this is a good start. The good thing, and the main thing that I'm really kind of looking at here when it comes to the daily, is I want to see a daily candle close over these previous highs. Because if we're looking at structure right now on the daily, more so looking at our previous, week or so, the main thing that I'm looking at here is that we have a low, we have a higher low, and we have our high here. If we start to create a higher high and we start to actually break out, then yes, Bitcoin is going to show us that it's in bullish structure. Looking at this on the 12-hour or even on the 4-hour, you could see that we still have those higher lows. We have higher highs technically going off of this candle here, but we need to break to a new high here. So I would argue that the next main focus point from my POV would be breaking well over these highs going back to the 21st and then targeting those highs from the 13th. This should get us back into this blue zone around 117 to like 120K on Bitcoin. So right now, Bitcoin still looks very good. And the same could be said about Ethereum and XRP. I know that it's not as clear on these charts because, again, when we look at Ethereum more so on like the daily, we're still kind of hovering around these lows. But the good news is if we go all the way back to the October 10th and 11th, which is when the liquidation event did happen, we have a nice low here. Yes, we have a higher low technically here, but we're still looking at these lows in between. And you might be saying, all right, well, technically we are in bearish structure, right? Because we have a lower low. Well, we're going off the main low here in which the market crashed. And this is when everyone started to panic. So technically we do have a higher low here. And now what we really want to see is a higher high. We want to clear and get a daily candle close over this 39.88. I'm just going to say $4,000. And this is also going to have us clear major resistance because we do have 3 daily candles in a row where we were closing right around that resistance level. And then after that, we really kind of just target the next highs from the 13th and the 14th. And this is up here around like 42, almost $4,300 dollars on Ethereum. So again, Ethereum looking very good. And then XRP, again, when it comes to XRP, obviously, yes, we're still fully focused on what Bitcoin is doing. It kind of looks as though we are in an inverse head and shoulders pattern where we do have the head and then we have the left shoulder and then the right shoulder. This typically leads to these charts having a big break to the upside again. And I do think that XRP will have that big reversal. We just have to be a little bit more patient here. So again, when it comes to most of these charts, they still look very good, especially leading in to FOMC week. We know that we're going to be getting a ton of updates during that week as well. So that's what I'm really kind of looking forward to. And then also if we're looking at stocks, stocks right now still looking very, very good. We are starting to peak above the moving average here on RSI. I did have this level outlined on the chart around like almost 6,700. This is those highs going back to September 22nd and the 23rd. This was acting as major resistance. Recently, we did sell off on the S&P, but we did find support above this resistance level. We could see that on the daily candle closes. Yes, we did wick below it. However, we managed to close above it. And now we got that big impulsive move, which did happen on, today, technically Thursday. And now we're looking to see if this thing is going to push higher and finally target the all-time highs and break over it. If we can manage to break over these all-time highs, that's going to be very bullish because, again, it's showing us that risk on assets are still extremely bullish at this moment, and there's still a lot of demand behind them. And then, of course, when it comes to risk on assets and when it comes to, markets and, looking at how things will, really kind of work out, one market that's been doing very well, and one thing that everyone has been putting a spotlight on is, of course, gold. So we have been following the gold market for quite some time, and recently we were talking about how gold and Bitcoin correlate and, how Bitcoin will follow gold. Recently, yes, gold did, in my opinion, have a major topping signal on it. RSI was overcooked in a huge way, and we did extend losses into Wednesday as well, and now we're just kind of chopping. And what I want to see from gold now is us to just kind of chop, maybe even chop into a downtrend, and then just kind of go sideways for quite some time. Reason why is because if we go all the way back in time, and let's actually just throw this on the weekly chart real quick, I want to go all the way back to 2020. So in 2020, and you could argue this is going off of like some major lows, it doesn't really matter, right? Like we were running on gold anyways during this time, but we did hit that topping point in August of 2020. Now, Bitcoin during this time barely ran. It barely did anything. And again, just looking at the Bitcoin chart, let's go back on the weekly. Let's go all the way back to 2021 and 2020 as well. Let's go back to August, right? So here we have August. Again, Bitcoin did hit a nice little high here, never really broke out. So although, yeah, we were bouncing off of the lows, again, Bitcoin wasn't really performing all that well. It was just chopping and chopping and chopping up until the end of October of 2020. That's when Bitcoin started to go absolutely crazy. Why is that? Well, it's because we follow gold, but we lag behind it. So gold topped out in August of 2020, and then it just continued to chop. And this just chopped for so long, all the way up until roughly March of last year. So during this time, Bitcoin did run. We had a massive top for Bitcoin. It sold off. We chopped all the way up until roughly, like 2024. And this is when we started to really, sell off a bit because, again, gold was starting to, form some very significant strength. We did rally against the all-time highs back in 2021, but then we just chopped and then we finally broke them. Now, again, the difference here when it comes to Bitcoin is, Bitcoin has barely been doing anything, although, yes, we did hit a nice high. Look at gold compared to Bitcoin. It's really outperforming Bitcoin in a huge way in terms of just the overall view here. I'm not talking about gains wise. So we were waiting to see Bitcoin really wake up in a big way, but we never got to see that. And that's because Bitcoin lags behind gold. And a good individual from the space did post about this as well. This is from Sminston With, and we have, you're going to have fun with this one. Best to bookmark it and sit with it a bit. Bitcoin follows gold. Top two plots are residual plots based on the price plot underneath for both Bitcoin and gold. Lets you visualize the fluctuations of both assets becoming more over or undervalued. The curved arrows connect the ends of gold bull runs to the beginnings of the Bitcoin bull runs, along with the approximate lag of Bitcoin behind gold runs in days. Now look where we are now with gold. And if we're looking at this view, okay, again, let's go back to 2020. So Bitcoin starts to run towards roughly like the middle of 2018, start of 2019, goes crazy all the way up until August. During this time, Bitcoin barely doing much. Then we go into a Bitcoin bull run after gold tops out. And even if we're looking at where we currently are at, gold has done very well. Gold has been in a bull run, and we're waiting to see Bitcoin follow that closely this time around as well. It's kind of interesting to look at this and kind of say, well, did we really experience a bull run for crypto at all yet? You could argue that yes, Bitcoin has been in a bull run. Yes, Bitcoin has been running. I mean, Bitcoin hit over 120K. However, when it comes to this space right now, specifically looking at RSI on Bitcoin, I don't think that we hit a major top for Bitcoin at all yet. I also don't think that we've seen alt season. I don't think that we've witnessed a major bull run like previous cycles. And with gold having this massive run up, it feels as if we're back in that 2020 time period where gold basically just topped and we're waiting on Bitcoin to follow gold in a big way. I would agree with Sminston here and say that, yeah, I do think that we are about to witness the major beginning of this bull run. Everyone's trying to base this off of previous 4-year cycles. I just don't know if that's the way to do this, especially at a time where it's kind of unpredictable, right? We have institutional players jumping in. We have regulators now trying to regulate crypto. We have big moves happening. We have ETFs now. I feel as if we are about to witness Bitcoin follow gold in a huge way, which is also going to lead the way for, altcoins to go absolutely crazy, which will lead to alt season as well. I think that everyone is really overlooking this at this point. And I feel as if this cycle, almost everyone is going to get this wrong, including myself. I don't think that this is going to be, a predictable cycle like previous ones. I think things are changing drastically. I think things are starting to, shift a bit. And it doesn't have to change in the sense of, oh, we will never see a top or anything like that. I mean more so time-wise, right? Every time that everyone has looked at these charts, they're saying, oh, well, it has to do this and that because, we followed 300 days in the past and then we did it by like 400 days. So, just extend it by 100 days. And that's exactly how most people have been trying to predict this cycle. But that's just simply not accurate. It has not worked at all this cycle, which is why I do think that the time frame wise of this cycle is completely different. That's also why a lot of people have been saying, oh, are we in a 5-year cycle now? And again, I think it's just because everyone's trying to grasp onto something to, try to work, this new cycle and how everything is starting to shift into like this new perspective. And I just don't think that that's the way to look at it. I think that right now we need to go back to how some of these markets have performed, with Bitcoin and gold kind of going, back and forth where, gold tops out and then Bitcoin goes crazy and then Bitcoin tops out and then gold goes crazy. I feel like if we look at just the basic factors and try to not predict time frame wise or, when this market's going to top out, all we really have to do is follow these simple things. And I feel like that's where we start to see this cycle make a lot more sense. So, in my opinion, with gold having this massive run up, with stocks about to, reach their, all-time high yet again, ahead of the FOMC meeting, also with the China deal starting to, become a possibility by the end of this month as well, I would not bet against Bitcoin starting to break out yet again and clearing some of these key levels on the chart and actually creating bullish structure again. So I definitely do think that we are in for a very exciting time around crypto. And I would just be a little bit more patient here. I would not act impulsively. I would not get, too ahead of ourselves trying to, predict what comes next. I think that we just take it one step at a time here. But, the factors are definitely outlined in front of us. I think that we have enough data to go off of to really kind of show us, hey, with gold hitting this possible top, it could make way for crypto to go absolutely crazy. And that does include XRP and altcoins in general. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.